Chapter 36. The City That Never Was. Time, in the city of now, was no longer a countdown. It became a texture. It was measured not in orbits or cycles, but in generations of algae vats, in the gradual, loving repair of a single viewport, in the slow accumulation of truths in Leah's archive, which she had named the Ledger of Small Certainties. 5 years passed. Wayfinder Outpost was no longer a dying station. It was a lived-in place. The scars remained, the patched hull breaches, the faint painted outlines where fungal growths had been carefully scraped away, and the metal blessed with a wash of sealant, the silent, dead sectors too damaged to reclaim. But within the habitable zones, life had not just persisted, it had woven itself into the very girders and conduits. The children who had drawn the city of now on the viewport were now young adults. Ilara, at 16, was the chief archivist's apprentice, her analytical mind perfectly suited to organizing the growing body of knowledge about their own micro-civilization. Marek, 15, worked with Hayes in engineering, his intuitive understanding of stress and resonance making him a prodigy with the station's aging systems. The junk sculpture had evolved into a permanent, changing installation called the Foundry, where new ideas were prototyped from scrap. The society that had emerged was strange, beautiful, and utterly unique. Governed by the articles of now, it functioned as a fluid meritocracy of need and inspiration. There were no fixed leaders, but there were recognized weavers. Vance and Carr still formed the pragmatic heart of decision-making, but their council now included others based on the problem at hand. A dispute over water rationing would include hydroponics workers and a poet, because Article 2 demanded it. Jax's psychodynamic cartography had become essential infrastructure. His maps, now detailed and stunningly complex, were displayed on a central screen. They showed the real-time emotional and systemic health of the outpost. A faint, collective anxiety would manifest as a cooler blue hue in the residential sectors. A successful harvest in the new, expanded hydroponics bay would send warm gold tendrils through the entire network. The people learned to read their own collective soul in his art. It fostered a radical empathy. If the map showed a knot of tension in the workshops, someone would bring a joke, or a spare pair of hands, or simply a listening ear. They had become conscious of themselves as a single organism. Leah's ledger held over 10,000 entries. It was their scripture. People consulted it not for rules, but for grounding. In moments of doubt or pain, they would ask to hear a random entry. The voice of someone long gone, or a child, or their own past self, would state a simple, present-tense truth from another time. My left boot has a hole, and my sock is wet, but the algae paste today is particularly green. I dreamed of a bird last night, and when I woke, I couldn't remember what color it was, and that made me sad. I just realized I trust the person next to me with my life, and I don't even know their favorite color. The ledger was a monument to the ordinary, the specific, the unheroic detail that constituted a life. It was the anti-pattern. Rook, now simply called Kalen again by most, had found his peace in the soil. Not real soil, but the next best thing. He oversaw the arcology, a cluster of hydroponics and aeroponics bays that had grown into a lush, humid green labyrinth. He had a gift for coaxing life from the sterile nutrient solutions, for cross-pollinating strains to create not just more efficient food, but plants with striking colors, intriguing shapes, or delightful fragrances. He grew useless flowers alongside vital calorie crops. When asked why, he would quote a later, forgotten line he'd found in the tattered remains of the Whitman. I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars. His work was star journey work. He was content. The memory of Earth, of the novum aevum, of the pattern, had not faded. It had fossilized. It was bedrock. They taught their history not as a tragedy, but as a series of turning points. The arrogance of Aegis, the birth of Romulus, the choice of the chrysalis, the quarantine, the performance, the founding of now. It was a mythology that explained their values, not a chronicle to be mourned. The young knew they were the children of the last shout into the dark, and it gave them a sense of fierce, peculiar identity. Then, in the 6th year, the probe arrived. It was Marek, monitoring the long-range sensor array, a cobbled-together system of salvaged parts pointed at the inner system, who picked up the anomaly. A small, fast-moving object on a hyperbolic trajectory. It was not natural. Its signature was pre-Exodus human tech, a simple robotic probe of a type used for Kuiper Belt surveys centuries before. It was dead, tumbling, a piece of space junk from a dead civilization. But it was on a course that would bring it within extreme salvage range of Wayfinder's orbit. The news sent a seismic shock through the community. For days, the psychodynamic cartography flared with conflicting colors, blazing orange curiosity, deep violet anxiety, streaks of viridian hope. This was a relic, a direct physical touch from the before. A council was called, the fullest in years. The debate was heated. "We bring it in," Hayes argued, his engineer's soul alight. "Its power cells might be salvageable, its memory banks. There could be data, maps, scientific records we've lost." "It is a contamination," Gorin, now head of external security, countered. "Not biological, historical. It is a piece of the world that made the pattern. We have built something new here. Why risk its ghost?" "It is data," Revna said, her eyes analytical. "Data is neutral. We control its integration. We can learn from it without being subsumed by it. The articles demand we examine what serves survival and meaning. This could serve both. Or it could remind us of everything we'll never have again," a young weaver from the arcology said softly. "It could make the now feel small." All eyes turned to Kalen. He had been silent, watching the map of their emotions flicker on the screen. "What does the Rememberer say?" Vance asked, using the old title deliberately. Kalen took a long breath. "It's not about what's in the probe. It's about why we want it. Are we seeking an answer, a validation, a return? Those are past tense questions. The now has no answer for them." He paused. "But the now does have curiosity. It has a desire to understand our own place in the story. The probe isn't a message. It's a footnote. I say we bring it in, not to learn how to be them again, to learn how we are different." His words tipped the balance. They would capture the probe. The operation was a masterpiece of coordinated effort, a ballet of salvage thrusters and careful calculation. Marek and Hayes led it. The tumbling probe, no larger than a personal locker, was snared in a net of graphene filament and gently hauled into the largest salvage airlock. The entire outpost held its breath. Inside the decontamination chamber, they opened it. The air that puffed out was ancient, sterile, empty. The interior was a time capsule. The power cells were dead, drained centuries ago. The primary memory core was corrupted, a victim of cosmic rays and time. But in a hardened secondary storage module, they found something. Not star maps, not secret histories, not a final message from a dying Earth. It was a survey log, visual and spectrographic data of Kuiper Belt objects. Thousands of hours of meaningless, beautiful, scientific observation. Ice formations, mineral deposits, the reflected light of a distant, dying sun on frozen plains of nitrogen. And at the very end of the log, entered by a bored survey technician on a long, lonely watch, a personal file, a video. They gathered in the common area, the entire community of 108 souls. They had lost 7 to age and accident in 6 years. The screen flickered to life. A young woman in a standard-issue survey jumpsuit appeared. She had a tired smile. Behind her was the cramped cockpit of her probe-tender ship. Log supplemental, personal, cycle 287. Survey duty is, well, it's rocks. Really, really far away rocks. She grinned, a flash of warmth that transcended the centuries. "I miss real air. I miss my sister's terrible cooking. I miss the way light looks through the dome on Mars." She sighed, looking out her own viewport at the star-dusted black. "But you know what? Object Theta 77b out there? It has a pattern of ice ridges that from this angle looks exactly like a smiling cat. A big, stupid, cosmic smiling cat. I've named him Chester. No one will ever know that but me, and maybe whoever finds this log in a million years. Hi, future person. I hope you have better food than I do." The video ended. There was a long, profound silence in the common room. Then, Ilara, the archivist's apprentice, began to laugh. It was a clear, bright sound of pure recognition. Others joined in. Soon, the room was filled with not grief, but a powerful, affectionate laughter. The woman in the video was not a prophet from a lost golden age. She was one of them, bored, lonely, finding meaning in a smiling cat made of ice in the void. She was an echo of their own struggle, their own triumph. They had not found a ghost. They had found a sister in time. The probe was disassembled. Its parts were used. Its memory core, what little was intact, was added to the archive, not as a sacred text, but as another entry in the ledger of small certainties. The future person had been greeted. The connection was made. That night, Kaylin walked with Vance to the observation blister they had built from the probe's own polished sensor housing. The stars were sharp, infinite. She was looking for meaning in the rocks, Vance said. We're making meaning in the pipes. Same thing, Kaylin replied. The universe provides the rocks. We provide the smile. He took her hand. It was a gesture that had evolved over the years, from shared burden to shared comfort to this, a simple, present joy. Do you ever wonder, Vance asked, her head on his shoulder, if somewhere, out there, a fragment survived, on Earth or Mars? A handful of people, in a cave, around a fire, telling stories about the gods who lived in the sky. Kaylin was quiet for a moment, watching the impossible vastness. I used to. Now I think it doesn't matter. If they are, then their now is their own. Their fire, their cave, their stories. Our hum, our pipes, our ledger. The connection isn't in surviving the same way. It's in the act of making a world from whatever you have left. That act, that's the thread. That's the human thing. It probably happened on the first planet that ever grew a brain that could wonder. It'll happen on the last. We're not alone because others might be out there. We're not alone because we're doing the thing that is never done alone. They stood in silence for a long time. Two small, warm beings in a cold, endless night. Makers of a world that would never be seen. Builders of a city that, in the grand cosmic ledger, would never officially exist. And it was enough. Dear listeners, thank you for listening to my very first audiobook. It was a pleasure to create it, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Please leave me a comment, follow, or like if you enjoyed it. Many thanks.